Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It's a good day Friday, the 11th day of April, bringing you Morning Matters today because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. A heated exchange erupted in the Senate as Justice Secretary Remulla and Senator Bato de la Rosa clashed over who authorized former President Rodrigo Duterte's transfer to the Netherlands. Senator Robin Padilla, meanwhile, became emotional during the inquiry, visibly moved by Senator Bongo's privileged speech on Duterte's arrest and detention conditions. President Bongbong Marcos condemns sexist and misogynistic remarks from candidates, calling them unacceptable. The president then stresses the need for respect and decency in political campaigns. And the Philippines joins Special Olympics Global Coalition for Inclusion, a first in the Asia Pacific. DepEd partners with Special Olympics Pilipinas to bring unified sports to over 50,000 learners in 500 schools nationwide. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, a heated exchange in the Senate as Justice Secretary Remulla and Senator Bato de la Rosa clashed over who ordered former President Rodrigo Duterte's transfer to the Netherlands. Here's the report.
Who exactly gave the order to put former President Rodrigo Duterte on a plane to The Hague? That was the repeated question of Senator Bato de la Rosa to PNP CIDG Chief Nicolas Torre during Thursday's Senate hearing. Torre led Duterte's arrest.
The order that I received from the Chief of the Philippine National Police is to serve the warrant and ensure his delivery to the 250th Wing, to the team that will deliver him to The Hague.
But Senator Bato found it unconvincing.
No, I have a team
you
of
are the
PG
one
there.
there. Wala si SOG doon. Ikaw ang nagkarga sa kanya sa aeroplano. Kaya tinatanong kita, who gave you the order?
Sir, I take my orders from the Chief of the Philippine National Police.
But when PNP Chief Marbil was asked, he invoked executive privilege.
So, General Marbil, are you lying?
Sir, I'm not lying, but I just want to have the executive privilege po regarding this matter. This
Ay, nandito na tayo eh. Executive privilege ka dyan.
That's when Justice Secretary Boying Remulla objected.
That's why we didn't want to attend the last hearing because this is what we were expecting, ma'am. We didn't want to be bullied into
No,
opposition.
we're not bullying you, sir. We're
I
not bullying
think
you,
that
sir.
Remulla argued that lawmakers are attempting to coerce people into admitting something they are unwilling to acknowledge. There were also questions on why the former president was immediately turned over to The Hague instead of pursuing extradition. The Interpol diffusion notice allegedly called for Duterte's arrest and for an extradition process to be carried out. But according to Remulla, that wouldn't work as the Philippines is no longer a member of the ICC.
po yung malinaw po na may treaty po na kinakailangan para ho magkaroon ng extradition. Eh wala pong treaty eh. Kasi nga nag-withdraw na tayo sa ICC.
Former Supreme Court Associate Justice Adolfo Azcuna, on the other hand, said the ICC's arrest warrant was legal, but the surrender to the ICC was not properly executed.
Sa palagay ko po ay it's either we have the Rome Statute or not. If we don't have a treaty, then we cannot surrender the suspect to the ICC under this section, because this section requires that the surrender be pursuant to a treaty. Pursuant means in accordance with. And so if there is no treaty, in my view, we cannot make a surrender.
Meantime, Special Envoy and Transnational Crime Ambassador Marcos Lacanilao was cited in contempt during the hearing for allegedly lying regarding Duterte's arrest. However, he was released after Senate President Chis Escudero refused to sign the contempt order.
Senator Robin Padilla became emotional during a Senate inquiry into the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. He was visibly moved as Senator Bongo delivered a privileged speech regarding the arrest and condition of Duterte at his detention facility in The Hague. Shortly after, Padilla stood up and left the hearing.
Sana makabalik na dito si Tatay Digong. Kung ano man ang kanyang pananagutan, alam ko po, buong tapang niya itong harapin dito sa ating sariling bayan. We have our own judicial system. After all, it is for the Filipinos to judge if he has done his job effectively as President of this country. Pilipino po ang dapat humusga kay Tatay Digong. Kung nakakalakad ba ang ating mga anak sa gabi na hindi nasasaktan, hindi nababastos, at hindi nakikidnap.
Now let's get the latest from The Hague. In Netherlands, we have Mon Gualvez reporting to us live from there. Magandang umaga sa iyo, Mon. Nakita natin no, si Robin Padilla, si Senator, umiiyak doon sa hearing. It surprised me actually that he's back in the Philippines. Kailan siya bumalik at gaano katagal naabutan mo ba siya dyan at anong ginawa niya while you were there?
Yes, actually, I got the chance, Gretchen, na ma-interview si Senator Robin Padilla before pumiyahe dyan sa Manila. I think it's been 2 weeks now or almost 2 weeks now since he left The Hague dahil yun din naman doon bilin ni former President Rodrigo Duterte sa kanya na siya ay bumiyahe pabalik na nga ng Pilipinas para mangampanya. So the reason, one of the things that we had na napag-usapan noong time na yun is talagang araw-araw in his 2 weeks, almost in his 2 week stay also in The Hague, talagang wala rin siya tigil ng pag-request sa ICC na mapagbigyan at makapasok sa detention center para makausap at makita si dating Pangulo, pero hindi siya napagbigyan. So also together with their camp, talagang they are insisting about the jurisdictional issue at talagang yung pag-aresto ay hindi raw tama. So same kumbaga arguments that they are raising when we had the chance to have an interview with him.
But there's actually a pertinent question over there while I was there, kung papayagan siya kasi he was using the line that he was a political ally of the former president and therefore he would need instructions and direction from Rodrigo Duterte when it comes to PDP laban. Pero yun nga,
Yes.
no, mukhang that has been a lingering decision of the ICC not to grant him a visit to the former president. Mukhang pamilya pa lang ang napapayagan dito sa pagbisita at legal counsel.
Tama. Actually, nung time na yon talagang mahigpit ang ICC. Pero this time, nung nandito na ngayon si Attorney Martin Delgra, he also mentioned to us na they are also requesting now the same thing at mukhang baka ma-consider yung mga political ally, yung mga lawyers. Oh, well, lawyers of course, number one, pwede yan. Pero yung mga lawyers na hindi part of the court team, ibig ko sabihin na they're also trying their best na makausap sana si former President Rodrigo Duterte. Kasi ba't ko nabanggit niya na ngayon baka mas payagan o mas luwagan. Even Attorney Martin Delgra asked the supporters to also apply for this na makita nga or maka-request ng access inside the ICC, no. So we just don't know if they will be approved, pero yung mga political allies may possibility na baka mapagbigyan, especially yung talagang very close to him. At saka mukhang this time yung ICC parang mas madali silang nakakausap dahil requests are being granted, especially like nitong kahapon sa birthday ni Kitty, almost 2 hours silang nagstay inside the detention center, sina Hanelet Avancenia at saka si Kitty, probably cause yun nga dahil may special celebration at meron ding reason, no, kasi nung isang araw hindi sila bumisita, so at least para mabawi iyon, ito napagbigyan sila. Madagdag ko lang din, Gretchen, na talagang sinasabi at kinwestiyon ni Attorney Martin Delgra yung hindi pagkakaroon ng tamang travel documents ng mga kasama ni former PRRD nang siya ay dalhin dito sa The Hague. So they're questioning it if it's legal na walang passport and visa yung mga police na kasama ni former PRRD ng dalhin dito. So this is something na sana daw ma-look into ng Senate in terms of legislation. Gretchen.
All right. Today is a deadline for the Duterte camp to submit the counter evidence. What should we expect to happen?
Si Attorney Nicholas Kaufman is very limited on his answers, and he just mentioned to us na just wait and see. No? Yung kanyang binabanggit sa atin about the counter evidence that will be submitted today by their camp, because until now we are actually refreshing the ICC website regarding this one. Wala pa. Hindi na rin siya muna nagbigay ng kanyang response or statement on what will happen or on what will they be saying on that counter evidence, if ever.
Okay, meron bang naging selebrasyon o pagtitipon dyan ng mga supporters sa labas ng ng penitentiary that is unusual from the everyday scenario over there?
Oo, Gretchen, dumami na naman. Usually ngayon, ang pagdami na lang ng tao dito sa labas ng ICC Detention Center is every weekend. Pero again, hindi nawawala ng tao. Pero yung dami, yung volume na halos napupuno na naman yung park outside the ICC Detention Center, it happened again yesterday during the 21st birthday of Kitty. Again, most of the Filipinos came from different parts of Europe. Some are from Asia and America na talaga namang nakiselebrate. They brought food, no? Dito sa celebration. Kumbaga naging KKD, kanya-kanyang dala or kanya-kanyang bitbit din, KKB ng mga pagkain para i-celebrate na daw yung birthday ni Kitty. At hindi naman sila nabigo. Sila ay napagbigyan naman na nung lumabas na sina Kitty at ang kanyang nanay na si Hanilet Amansenya, they joined the group of people na kumain outside the ICC Detention Center. Madagdag ko na lang din, when we asked, so how did they celebrate her birthday inside the detention center? Ang sabi niya, it's somehow emotional dahil she had the chance to literally dance with her father. Nagkantahan lang din daw sila inside. At kabilang nga dyan, she sang songs sa loob. At yun nga, wala man daw regalo sa kanyang tatay, pero yung naisayaw daw siya while inside, malaking bagay na. So still, she wishes for her birthday, not for herself, but her father to be released and makabalik na rin daw dyan sa Pilipinas.
Did they give updates on the family member that will replace Kitty Duterte because birthday niya ngayon, alam ko inaantay nila. Pauwi na rin ba siya at nandyan na ba si Congressman Pulong?
Kahapon yung birthday, tama ba? Alam mo, nalilito na ako sa araw talaga. April 10. Ang birthday
Saan?
ni...
April 10. Ay, hindi, mukhang hindi na pala. 11 na pala dyan.
Oo, ayan. So, yeah, 11 na ngayon dito. Regarding sa schedule ng other family members' visit, mailap na yung sagot nila. Initially, ang idea dapat this week ang dating ni Congressman Pulong, pero wala tayong nakita any signs of him in The Hague. Nung tinanong natin kung when are we expecting to see Congressman Paulo, hindi na nagbigay ng idea sa atin or sagot sina Hanilet and Kitty. Pero sinasabi lang nila, they will not leave The Hague hanggat di dumarating daw si Kitty. So there will be an overlapping schedule sa kanila. At saka hindi rin sinabi na malinaw ni Hanilet if dumating man si Kitty, Congressman Paulo, kung siya ba ay kasamang uuwi sa bansa ni Kitty at may iwan dito na sa The Hague para nga makabisita pa rin palagi kay former President Rodrigo Duterte.
Baka umikot pa kasi 26 countries yung napagbigyan doon sa listahan ng Congress, di ba? Pero amid all of these efforts to visit the former president, I do remember one thing that gets in. Ang sabi ni VP Sara, that the letters from the supporters are being screened, but once they're given a green flag, they're able to make it to the former president. I guess that is another recourse from those who want to send their messages of support. In the meantime, maraming salamat sa iyo, Mon Gualvez. Again, abangan po natin, April 11 is the deadline for the submission of the defense for their counter evidence into the ICC investigation into the former president's war on drugs. Maraming salamat po sa iyo for joining us live again from The Hague in Netherlands. Now on to the Philippines. Kerwin Espinosa, a self-confessed drug lord and mayoral candidate for Albuera Leyte, was shot during a campaign rally on Thursday. According to a police report, the incident occurred while Espinosa was waiting for his turn to speak at a gymnasium in Barangay Tinagan. The unidentified gunman is said to have hidden in the ceiling of the stage. Doctors have declared Espinosa out of danger after he sustained a gunshot wound to his shoulder. In response, Albuera police launched a manhunt for the gunman. Meanwhile, in a Facebook Live, Espinosa assured he would continue his candidacy and not be intimidated by the incident.
Padayon gihapon kita sa ato ang tumong ug tinguha. Ayaw dili kita magpadala sa kahadlok. Nahitabo kini kanako kay tungod dili sila gusto nga ako'y mulingkod isip mayor sa Albuera. Kay maapiktahan man gyud ilang mga negosyo. No? So nagpasalamat ko kaninyong tanan nga giampo ko ninyo. Mao nay giingon nga dili gyud itugot ang dautan nga mahitabo kang Dodong Kerwin.
President Bongbong Marcos condemned sexist and misogynistic remarks made by some candidates, calling them unacceptable. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro said the president issued a statement after being informed about the issue. Castro reminded the public not to idolize or cheer for leaders who make disrespectful comments, especially against women. The Commission on Elections has also declared all campaign platforms as safe spaces, discouraging foul language and discriminatory content.
Hindi na po dapat ito pinapalakpakan. Kung nagawa ito dati at pinapalakpakan, hindi na po sa panganahon ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Marcos na dapat ito mangyari.
Don't go away. Morning Matters will be right back right after the short break. I'm Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. Global markets have suffered a sharp sell-off as U.S. President Donald Trump's escalating trade war with China shook investor confidence. The S&P 500 fell 3.5%, Nasdaq dropped 4.3%, and oil prices slid over 3% amid growing recession fears. Uncertainty spiked despite Trump's 90-day tariff pause for most countries as tariffs on Chinese imports rose to effectively 145%. Earlier, China vowed to retaliate, calling U.S. actions threats and blackmail. And for that, we have an expert here on the show to ask him his insights about the matter. We have UANP Economics Professor Ronilo Balbieran. Welcome to Morning Matters. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Ma'am Gretchen.
So we are in the middle of a 90-day pause of tariffs given by the U.S. to its surplus trading partners. 17% though in the offing for the Philippines. Where do we find ourselves now?
Well, this can only be good. No? This is a good opportunity amidst all of this. No? So the key phrase siguro is supply chain relocation. No? So because the whole world is a global marketplace, it's also a global factory. And so it's just a matter of figuring out where do you locate your factories so that the tariffs where the country is being imposed on, no? So will benefit much from higher or lower tariff. No? So, and I think if we are the second lowest in terms of this reciprocal tariff, so we can only benefit from this particular reciprocal tariff, and so we can welcome additional investments later on as global supply chains are being relocated to the ones that have smaller or lower tariffs being imposed by the U.S.
So do you think that the Philippines can stand to benefit from this? I mean, seeing everything, the whole of market. Kung titingnan mo kasi tama ka doon, no? Pagdating sa ASEAN region, ang Cambodia, meron silang 49% reciprocal tariff. Laos has 48%, Vietnam 46%, Myanmar 44%, Thailand 36%, Indonesia 32%, Malaysia 24%, and Brunei 24%. The Philippines only getting 17%. Meron nagsasabi na hindi lang to only. Pero kayo po, ano pong para sa inyo, positibo ito?
Positibo ito kasi unang-una, hindi na naman lalala pa yung trade deficit natin. Kasi malala naman talaga yung trade deficit natin to begin with. So we are not a net exporting country. We are actually bleeding in terms of our trade deficit. So therefore, anong impact nito? So we cannot go lower than our existing trade deficit. So and if we are talking about our trade surplus to the United States, no, kakaunti lang yung mawawala doon if ever, no. So but now with the 90-day pause, which does not include China. So yes, we are cheering, we are rooting for our Filipino manufacturer retailers, Bench, Pen Shop, Bayo, Camiseta, all our Filipino manufacturers and retailers. Kasi they will be encouraged by the global players. Oh, come on, it's now your turn to sell to America. Kasi ano magiging laman ng mga department stores nila? Kung hanggang ngayon may iiwan yung more than 100% na tariff imposed on China. Anything above 100 practically is saying no to the goods of that particular country.
Well, before we go deeper into trade diversion that I think you're talking about, meaning how the Philippines can stand to benefit from countries looking into other countries with lower tariffs, puntahan muna natin yung impact of the 145% tariff imposed on China. Where do you think is Trump taking America, and how will this trade war between two superpowers actually affect us? From an individual and consumer perspective, are we totally apart from that, or because we are highly globalized already, we will still somehow feel the pinch? Anong tingin mo magiging epekto nun?
So, well, there are two things. No? Number one, on the global economy. So, tingnan natin siya. What is really the impact on it? So, I think our viewers need to be informed that America has 25% of the total economy, global economy, and China has 20%. The far third is either Germany or Japan, which has 5%. So nag-uunahan lang sila maging third place. And this is far 5%. So we are really talking about the clash of the titans. No? So 25% versus 20%. And we are talking about a net buyer for all goods in the world, 10%. So si America imports 10% total of the world's import versus China of around 14 to 15% producer. So it's a battle between the buyer versus the seller, and then the 25% versus the 20%.
So paano natin mararamdaman yan?
Paano natin siya mararamdaman?
In the immediate.
So the measure there is the trade openness index. No? So for example, the trade openness index of Singapore is more than 300%. So anong ibig sabihin nun? So export plus imports divided by GDP. So mas takot si Singapore. Why? Because kapag nag-away si US and China, so the whole world will go to a recession, then Singapore would not have anyone to sell to. But the Philippines has just around 60% of trade openness index. So what does that mean? If we are having difficulties exporting to the world, we will just buy from ourselves. So therefore, we are kind of shielded. If anything less than 100%, you are actually relying on your domestic markets to buy what you are actually producing. So us versus other countries like Singapore, which has more than 100% of trade openness index. So we are in a better shape to actually not have the negative effect of this. And number two, have the potential positive effect if investors will relocate their factories in the Philippines. And number three, if America will try to buy what we produce in the Philippines rather than China, which is now being imposed more than 100% of tariff.
I think we have a net exporting economy to the U.S. I mean,
Yes.
17% of our exports, of our global exports, are to the United States. I think a major part of that would be yung electronics natin, no? Yung
Yes.
semiconductors natin, yung parts ng mga gadgets that we manufacture here. Pagdating naman doon, I mean, how will that get affected by the 17% tariffs? Is it not much, or?
Well, definitely it will have a negative effect.
Yun yung sinasabi mo, na,
yes.
na maliit na makakita natin na magkaka-apekto doon sa mga industriya
Yes,
ngayon.
but definitely this is in relation to other countries. No? So, but Singapore versus Singapore and the Philippines, no? So, hindi naman masyadong nag-i-import ng ganong similar products ang US from Singapore. No? So, Singapore is just a trading hub, a logistics hub that sells China, then other Myanmar, Malaysia, Indonesia, and then parang siyang trading post lang siya. So us, assembly, export to the US. No? So therefore, I think in relation to other countries which make actually compete with us in relation to our exports to the US, so parang, okay, mas mahal. Ang kalaban na lang natin ay mas mahal na presyo. No? So, but nonetheless, may choice ba si America? So, ang sinasabi ko dito, this is a negotiation ping-pong activity. So, back
What
and
is
forth.
happening now?
Yes. So baka bukas, iba na uli ito.
Do you think that's the real motive of President Trump, to actually get to the negotiating table, reset the economy, trying to get in a position of power against all of these countries? Kasi parang may sinasabi sila ngayon, the reason for the 90-day pause is because that has always been their intention, to actually say that they are
Open.
they are going to impose these tariffs and then get to that negotiating point
Yes.
with these countries. Tingin mo ba, I mean, is it the U.S. actually realizing the gravity of their actions, or I mean, how do you read this?
Talagang maverick si...
Flip-flopping.
Hindi naman siguro flip-flopping because I think if you wouldn't want to bet against Trump, so many bet against him in the election, in the re-election, so so therefore I think being a deal maker as he is, as his reputation, so markets are looking at it, reading at it as it is, and traders, stock traders are also looking at it as it is. No? So therefore, kaya wild yung movement ng stock market ngayon. The traders are very happy with that. So in relation to, if there's volatility,
May
traders,
movement.
yes,
may
movement,
kikita, may matatalo.
yes. So it's never been higher, no? Yung stakes are never been higher. So what 1,000, 2,000, etc. Yung galaw mo na yan. So and we've seen. So and I think the intended impact is now being felt, no? So many countries are trying to contact the Oval Office, no? Okay, let's talk. Si Vietnam, we're willing to make our tariff zero, no, just for you, etc. I think that is really the intention to shock,
To wait for offers.
to begin with, the methodology of the reciprocal tariffs as presented by President Trump himself is actually being in question. So how accurate is that methodology? It's a combination of not just tariff, but currency exchange, non-tariff barriers. So they lump everything and they put out a number there. No? So, but if you try to research it on your own, you wouldn't be able to pinpoint those numbers from your research, from the internet. So what's the point? The point is, I think they just want to shock the world.
Get everybody to react.
Shock it was. No, get everybody to react, and then our lines are open. You can call us anytime.
What can you offer?
What can you offer? You have 90 days.
Well, President Trump says that his intention is to bring back manufacturing and jobs to America. Do you think he can do that with these tariffs?
Let's see, no? So, but I think there are already some calls, as he mentioned, there are already some calls for some manufacturing to be shifted from.
But are
from
his
China.
industries ready to actually manufacture? Because we do know the reason why they outsource manufacturing to China is because it's so much cheaper. Labor costs are down. There is scale. Can America actually compete when it comes to that? Do they have first the workforce? Do they have the factories in place across industries? Or is that just a dream?
Well, definitely the expected outcome there is it will be more expensive. iPhones will be more expensive in the US, etc. But I think the second strategy, the twin strategy, being hoped by the Trump administration is the Department of Government Efficiency. So, of course, it will be more expensive to produce something in America. So, but their hope is, okay, we will reduce taxes because we will be cutting down the size of our American government. Yes. So the DOGE is intended to, cut
Give
the
more
government.
money
Yes, and so give more money,
consumers.
reduce the taxes being imposed on corporations, being imposed on citizens, and so they will have higher hopes of bringing back those jobs and, provide some tax cuts and even subsidies to these corporations just to bring back the manufacturing jobs, especially for the automobile industry.
But certainly it won't take just a few years, right? How soon can they feel the impact over there?
Well, I think if they are to do this, so they have up to the end of 2025 to see if there are real offers. So they have to convince the investors. They really have to convince the investors that it's really worth to gamble your money. So investment is a long-term activity. And so what you need is only one thing, certainty. So the question in the investor's mind is, when will Trump decide permanently on these tariff rates? And so I think once everything subsides after 90 days, perhaps, then everything will be in place. And so the investors say, this is for the next 4 years or for the next 3 years. And so we are willing to reshape our supply chains, our investment locations, and finally do it in America. But there's one thing is for sure. Everybody, especially the investors, are looking at certainty and what would be the permanent tariff rate. So that's all there is to it. So, kailan ba matatapos yan? Pag natapos yan, magde-decide kami.
You're saying that people are holding on to their money now, and if they do that, what would the overall effect on the world economy
So,
be?
in the meantime, that the investors are now holding back on their decision to whether to hold or to change location of their manufacturing activity. So if you're holding that investment activity, so that would slow down the entire economy.
The global economy.
The global economy. So that would slow down while we're waiting for the stabilization of these rates, the permanency of these rates. And so in the meantime, so those who are very dependent on trade are actually losing their minds. So what are you doing, President Trump? But for us, I think that's a minor blip on our economy because we are heavily dependent on our domestic consumers.
Okay, let's move on over to the other superpower in the room, which is China. We do know that they are not known to buckle under pressure when they are being challenged. Where do you see them moving their markets when it comes to demand for their products? If it isn't in the United States, if they're getting tariffed heavily, how do you expect them to react?
Well, their most immediate plan B is to get a trade with India, with the ASEAN. So that's your and then get a trade from Russia. So the most immediate, and so therefore it may also want to maximize this thing called the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So that is a China-led trade agreement. So if China will not have a deal with the U.S., then that's the next resort. So, but I think it will have a very difficult, challenging activity for the next few weeks. Why? Because China is actually losing its labor force very fast. So it's aging very fast. And its economy is no longer growing at 10% every year as it used to. So it's swerte na siya kung mag 6-7% siya. So why? Because it's aging, it's no longer giving birth to babies, etc., etc. So the domestic market is in fact actually slowing down in terms of consumption. So it should look to India, and it should look to immediately to Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, so the VIPs, so and the rest of the Middle East, Africa. So that's its only chance of getting or trying to win in this battle, the clash of the titans.
Speaking of trade diversion, the New York Times article did emphasize that we are looking at this with a silver lining, that the Philippines can stand to gain through its services manufacturing, dahil dun tayo malakas, ano? Pero handa ba tayo? Yun yung tanong. Kasi also we do take note the high electricity costs here, a lot of red tape when it comes to businesses setting up shop here. How can government possibly take advantage of this opportunity to turn it into gold for Filipinos?
Well, the good news is we were able to secure certain institutional victories in preparation for this. Parang medyo napagandaan na natin to, especially for the amendment of the Public Service Act. So that's 100 year in the making in terms of amending that Public Service Act. That we are able to allow foreigners to own 100% of some key industries that we used to protect. Dati, maririnig mo, 40% lang kung foreigner kasi delikado yan kasi pang Pilipino lang yan. But so, natin yan sa airport, sa telecom, sa transportation. So, and then, number two, we are able to put in place the CREATE and the CREATE More Act. So, therefore, now putting in place more tax incentives, expanded tax incentives, especially for what you mentioned about power. So, meron kang additional deductions in terms of your tax obligations if you're a power-heavy investment. So,
But in terms of being a manufacturing option, can we realistically be
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
For let's say for the United States, if they can't outsource from China.
So definitely these are the things that our Super Secretary Frederick Go and the Secretary of Department of Trade and Industry, Secretary Roque, can highlight to our potential investors. Look, so if you want to relocate here, exporting to the U.S., these are the things that you can take advantage of. And we have just recently signed these very crucial, game-changing laws that will enable you not just to take advantage of our 17% reciprocal tariff, but at the same
Actually,
time...
nakausap nga natin ng DTI, no? At ang sabi nila, this is good for us because, for example, our coconuts can now be price competitive. If you compare it to Thailand that is at 36%, yung ating exports, no, yung products natin, papantay na. Kasi
Yes.
kung murang-mura yung mga produkto mula sa Vietnam, sa Thailand, yung atin, it can actually compete. Do you see it that way also?
Yes, yes. So again, you're very correct in that. No? So it's a competition of the price, the selling price, at the same time your cost. So kasi the price minus the cost is your profit. So if we are competitive in our price, and at the same time we're offering our investors many more deductions in terms of their tax obligations, then hey guys, we're actually now more competitive. You now stand to gain more profit for our price and cost structure than anybody else in this region.
All right, I think those are bright spots to see. Of course, we'd like to see those in the midst of a volatile market, global economy. Maraming salamat for explaining everything to us and how we take the 90-day pause for now. Maraming salamat to UANP Economics Professor Ronilo Balbiaran for joining us on Morning Matters today to shed light on the tariff and the trade war between the U.S. and China. Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be right back right after this short break. Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. The Philippines has become the first Asia-Pacific country to join the Special Olympics Global Coalition for Inclusion. This comes after the Department of Education signed a partnership with Special Olympics Pilipinas. The partnership aims to foster inclusion and empathy by introducing unified sports to over 50,000 learners with and without intellectual disabilities across 500 schools nationwide. At least 2,000 educators will also receive specialized training to implement Special Olympics programs effectively. Now, to further discuss this matter and to help us explain why there is a ball on this table, we have Special Olympics Pilipinas Chairperson and National President Akiko Thompson Guevara. Hello.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. This is a volleyball, no less, for our volleyball player.
Yes, so hindi siya football, hindi siya soccer. It's a volleyball.
Actually, I'm
for Special Olympics.
Well, it's one of our items that we play with. Yeah, so I just thought it'd be appropriate to.
Okay, so talk to me about unified sports. I mean, that
new concept
line caught my attention because I don't know what that means. What does unified sports mean?
Unified sports is one of our programs at Special Olympics where we have a typical person playing sports side by side with a person with intellectual disabilities. And we found that it's a powerful way for people to, because play, it's very natural, it's fun, and you get to know one another. And then eventually, there's a quote that we have at Special Olympics: we play side by side so that we can learn side by side, and eventually, hopefully, we can live side by side, because it just breaks down the barriers. And so that's a powerful way to achieve, acceptance and friendship.
What sports are included in those?
There's so many unified. We have football, there's basketball, there's bocce, bowling type sport. We have several unified sports. They're team sports, typically.
But in this partnership with the DepEd, how are you planning to implement that?
We have focused on 7 sports: bocce, basketball, there's swimming, there's athletics, there's badminton, there's dance sport, and there's one more. It's slipping my mind, but basta. Those are our focal sports that we've decided to focus on now.
But how do you imagine that to go? I mean, in schools, how will this be implemented?
So we have.
And what will be the guardrails?
Well, so thank you for asking that. So part of this coalition, as you said earlier, we will be training up 2,000 educators in inclusive practices. And so we will be inviting the individuals, the students with neurodivergent students, to play sports with the typical kids. And per school, it will differ, because some schools might prefer to do this sport over another sport. And in the coalition, we've also stipulated that we will be engaging 500 public schools. And for us, that's pretty exciting, because this is where it's needed the most. And if you look at the statistics, these individuals with intellectual disabilities, they're more likely not to be in school, like 42% or so. Statistics also are like 49% that they'll drop out. They're bullied as well. So this brings them in.
I actually wanted to talk about that because we do see a rise in incidents of bullying across schools.
Yes.
I remember reading that story quite recently, that the rates have increased. So how do you plan to implement this program with those in mind?
Well, we train up capacity building, we train up the educators, but there's a global coalition center that does research in Abu Dhabi, and they found that actually through our programs, it actually helps those social, emotional, bullying, those kind of things. Our activities help in those areas, which for both typical and for neurodivergent, which is what we want. I think
kumbaga, it enhances the self-confidence of kids with
Well,
disabilities?
the empathy for those who are typical, because they realize there's nothing to be afraid of. You know, why we should be playing. For those with intellectual disabilities, confidence, the joy, the skill, you know, being part of. And so I think there's a lot of healing that happens, and realization and empathy when you have that setting.
But on the other hand, when you have that setting, the probability also for bullying increases, right? Because of the exposure to kids with disabilities.
Yes.
I mean, how do you plan to deal with that? Kasi kung meron talagang mga bata na we don't know where they're coming from, but sadyang napagtitripan.
Yes.
Yung may kapansanan.
Yes.
Paano kaya yung mga ganun?
So we have this thing called Unified Champion Schools, and while Unified Sports is one avenue, we have another component. It's called Inclusive Youth Leadership. So inclusive, typical, and neurodivergent together, running leadership programs in their schools. And they're not going to be left on their own. Obviously, we will be coaching, training, assisting and supporting them with their programs.
So who is with you on this? Who's helping you?
Oh, wow, many. Milo is a big supporter, a champion, realizes the power of what we're doing. And I think for them it was like, yes, that's right. Sports teaches compassion. And so they're a huge part of it. Obviously, the Department of Education is the people that are giving us the access into these sports. But our regional office in the Asia Pacific region is also supporting us as we need. So there are many partners that we have. This is something you cannot. It's gargantuan in task, and so we need all the partners and support. And this the global coalition, there's a fund, Global Philanthropy Fund, SNF, that's supporting all of this.
Do you have data on what percentage of the school's populations are kids with disabilities?
I'm nervous. I don't want to give you that because I might be wrong, but
off the top of your head.
Yes, I read that there is 4 million, not necessarily with intellectual, but with disabilities. So I mean, and I think we all know within our circle people with autism, with different. Within our circles, there's so many.
So it is actually a good opportunity for them to find themselves across a slew of opportunities, right?
Yes.
I mean, we have seen some success in the Special Olympics with our swimmers.
Yes, with our bocce players. We participated at the 2023 World Games, and I'm going to get the quote.
How far have we gone?
Oh my gosh, we've had golds and bronze, and we've medaled there. And then more recently, we competed at the Asia Pacific bocce tournament.
Sorry, what's bocce?
Bocce.
Forgive my
don't worry. It's kind of like a mixture of bowling, where you have a white ball that's a target, and the red ball tries to get and the green ball tries to get as close to the white ball, and so who comes the closest? It seems easy, but it's quite hard, and I've experienced unified sports, and
so we do well in bocce.
Yes.
Which other sports do we do well in?
We're actually quite good, not bad in basketball, I have to say, and swimming.
Si Ernie Gawilan, alala ko, na-interview ko yan.
Yes.
Galing naman siya sa Davao.
Yes.
Doon siya natuto at
Yes, ocean.
yung ocean ang naging niya.
But Gretchen, I have to Ernie is with a para, which addresses physical disabilities. Special addresses people with intellectual disabilities. So they're typically slower learners.
That's different.
Yeah, so we are separate. Para happens typically, the Para Games happened a month after the Olympics. We have our own World Games, Summer Games, but it happens on a different time frame.
So that's the difference.
Yes.
Not a lot of people understand that line.
No, you're right. And so they're special for the intellectual.
Pag sinabi nating intellectual disability, what is included in
So
that
they're
list?
slow learners typically. There can be people on the spectrum, autism spectrum. They're Down syndrome. Some people are born with it. Some people have injuries later on, brain injuries that affect them. So, yeah, it's a cerebral palsy. It's a whole.
So are you putting a different personnel or an additional personnel to help enforce this program, or is it going to be added into the skill set of physical educators already in their schools?
Educators already in the schools, although because
Sa PE
yeah,
ito.
well, PE, but also educators. It can be other teachers, not just PE.
Okay.
But I mean, we're leveling up, and so we also will have to expand and grow as the needs require.
But how will that be integrated into the DepEd curriculum? Or is it going to be a special playtime?
No, this happens after school. These programs will happen after school,
okay.
and since the MOU signing, we have a technical working group. So just all these details. Where do we bring our? We've had pilot projects in SDO Pasay, Las Piñas, Binyan, Santa Rosa, who have been running our unified champion schools, and so we have like a test kit of what works. And at our MOU signing last Tuesday, Pasay shared the best practices, how they were able to successfully in 92 days run such a wonderful campaign. And obviously for them, the LGU office was very instrumental in the success of their program. So we're hoping that they too can share their best practices with the schools and districts to come.
As a chairperson of the Special Olympics Pilipinas, what is your vision for this? Where do you want to take it? And also, how do we understand this partnership, this historic partnership between the DepEd and Special Olympics Pilipinas? What opportunities do you see for kids with intellectual disabilities?
Yes, thank you for that question. So our dream at the board level is to bring our programs nationwide. And with this MOU, we're headed in that right direction. For individuals with intellectual disabilities, inclusive education is so important in helping them uplift and transform and change their lives. And so we're excited that we have access. What was the second part of your question again?
How do we understand this historic partnership?
And
how personal is this to you?
Thank you. But this is a huge milestone that the whole country can be proud of, Gretchen, because the Philippines is the first in the Asia-Pacific region to sign this coalition. So we're pioneers. We're leading the way. And it just shows the commitment of our government also, the value that they place in this also. So we're very grateful to Secretary Sani Angara for his faith and trust. How personal, it's very personal. It's all God's leading. How I got involved in this is because my youngest daughter, 8-year-old Sachiko, was born with Down syndrome. And, it's been a beautiful adventure and journey. And when the regional office asked my husband and I to join the board, I just knew. It was just like special needs.
Is your own daughter into sports?
Yes.
What sport?
She's a fish. Like her mama.
Swimmer too.
Yes, she loves it. But
What have you noticed in her in terms of her development when she got into swimming?
Oh, just the physical first. It's hard for me to actually teach her strokes because I'm the mom, but she's a visual learner, so she just sees us doing it, and then she'll do her own rendition of the freestyle or whatever. But there's just. Right now, at her age, I'm just, the joy, I don't know. It's funny. You talk to my boys; they don't see anything. It's Sachiko. There's nothing. She's nothing different with her. She's, yeah.
So that is the goal, right?
Well, the goal is, yes, to bring it nationwide, for sure.
And I think it's huge that you're able to institutionalize this program, I mean, it's one thing to do advocacy work and another to actually get government to do something about it. So it is monumental. Thank you so much for my balls.
And your
my stress
shirt.
ball, to go with this.
Yes,
and my shirt. And
by
what does it say?
our partners with Linya Linya, hindi kaya yan?
Oo.
Hindi. Kaya yan. So
like-
this is, I have to...
The comma makes it matter, right?
Yes, of course.
Hindi kaya yan, hindi kaya yan. Alright, maraming salamat for joining us and making our Friday bright with your good news. We have Kiko Thompson Guevara, chairperson and the national president of the Special Olympics Pilipinas, joining us today to make our morning matter.
You're awesome.
And that's it for today's episode of Morning Matters. My name is Gretchen Ho. A happy weekend to all and a good Friday. We are One News, all sides, all the time.